This is the Multiorgasmic Mama, the podcast for high-achieving moms to have sex worth putting the energy in for. I'm Tilly Storm, a holistic sex and intimacy coach, and it's my mission to help you want sex again, to have better orgasms, and to feel confident and sexy so you experience more pleasure in the bedroom and beyond. Welcome back, mamas. It's Tilly Storm, and today I'm here to give you, hopefully, a quick hit episode. This is me totally teaching off the cuff here, and who knows how long these episodes end up being, but I promise you I'll try and make it short. What is embodiment? Why do you want it? And more specifically, what is embodied pleasure? Embodiment is the ability to give a concrete form, to express a particular form. One of the things that keeps people from being embodied is being in their head all the time. This is the number one issue with women's pleasure and women's sexuality, is that all of the conditioning that you were raised with to be in your head, be smart, go to school, get a good job. This is all great in helping you be successful in every area of your life except your sexuality. Because all of the conditioning that you got growing up around achieving, being action and goal oriented, this is the exact conditioning that keeps you from having great sex and intimacy. As you can probably relate, the best sex happens when you aren't thinking about it. This is why for many people, it's easier for them to have great sex when they are under the influence of something like a glass of wine or an edible, or when they're just completely out of their environment in a hotel on vacation. This is because these sorts of environments or influences help get us out of our day-to-day life, thinking of our to-do list, thinking of all the things we should be doing instead of being embodied in our pleasure and experiencing life in the present moment. Embodiment is the ability to fully inhabit your body, to live from it instead of being dissociated from it or disconnected from it or shaming it, repressing it, feeling guilty of it. It's fully living from the body with all parts of you on board. Your brain too. So it's not like you're giving up your mental capacity or that you aren't, able to be in your head at all. It's just that you have more of a balance in your life, that you're reconnected to the vessel that actually takes you on a day-to-day journey throughout your life, and that you're intimately connected to it. I always say to my clients in the Sensually Embodied Woman program that God lives in the somatic realms. This means that the divine is not separate from the body itself, which to many of you who are raised religious, this is completely mind-blowing, right? This is one of the lessons that I learned when I had a free birth with my firstborn son back in 2008. I got from that birth experience, I walked away from that birth experience thinking, wow, everything the church taught me about my body is completely wrong. That my body knew exactly what to do. It knew the exact experience that needed to happen for me to birth my baby safely. I don't go advocating for everyone to have a free birth, although I do think it is a great option if that's what feels right for you. But it is something that was given to me, that I was told that this is how I got to birth my baby. And because I listened to that inner wisdom and knowing, it worked out perfectly for me. I ended up having a precipitous birth. I was only in labor for 2 hours and only would have known that it was time to actually birth a baby within 30 minutes of him being born. So I never would have made it to a hospital or a birth center, and a midwife never would have made it to me on time anyway. This was my body's way of telling me, hey, listen, we know how to do this. We know what's going on, and you need to trust us. And thank God I did, because it really gave me this amazing initiation into what it means to be embodied. That experience took me from being completely disassociated from my body, not really being aware of how I'm moving in the world, and brought me straight inside. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is what it means to be intimately connected with my inner wisdom, self-trust, to be connected with the intelligence that is the body itself. And while the word embodiment wasn't even like really well known or a part of my vocabulary at the time, and I didn't have in my field of consciousness and awareness, there wasn't anyone speaking about this sort of thing. So I felt completely in the dark about, well, what is this thing I just experienced? What is this life-altering, life-changing experience of viewing my body as sacred, of viewing my body as a divine intelligence that is like literally a vessel for the divine to show me what's next, to show me what's right for me. I had never heard anyone talk about this before. I had never known another human that could relate to this experience I'd had. So my free birth experience actually set me on this path of learning, what the hell just happened? What did I just go through? And is there a name for this? How do I come back to this on a day-to-day basis? How can I feel so connected to me, so connected to my body without having to go through childbirth again? Because no one should have to birth a baby to experience this level of self-awareness and self-trust and embodiment. So when I talk about embodied pleasure, what this means is that you are so connected to your body that you learn to trust it, that you learn to trust that it absolutely knows what to do in a sexual experience, that if you just follow the pleasure already in your body, it will show you more pleasure. Because I come from the frame of mind and the absolute conviction and belief that all women are already multi-orgasmic. This is already inside of you. If you look at babies in the womb, they touch themselves. Even when they're little babies and toddlers, they still touch themselves, and they have all of this access to pleasure until they learn that it's not safe to experience that, or they get shamed for it, or whatever various things might happen to them, a trauma or an abuse or something like that, that begins to shut down the connection to the multi-orgasmic pleasure that we were born with. And this conditioning and this trauma, it begins to disembody us because we learn that, oh, well, maybe it's not so safe to be in my body. Maybe it's not so safe to trust this about myself. And coming home to that, rewiring that pattern that says it's not safe to be in my body, it's not safe to trust what my body might say. This is not something that I take lightly. I have worked with many clients who this is their exact thing. They don't trust themselves because maybe they've had an experience that has definitely shown them that when they did think that they trust themselves and they acted on it, something bad happened. And while this may happen, this is a part of your soul's perfect journey, because maybe the whole reason that happened is for you to come in and to do this work and see, wow, what's it like to reclaim this? What is it like to be so intimately connected to my body and my sexuality after being disconnected for so long? And while I never experienced any adverse sexual trauma or abuse, this was the journey that I still got to go on just because of the strict religious conditioning and shaming that I got around my body and sex growing up. That it became not only something that I had to heal and find myself back in my body again, but it's something that I became a teacher of, one of the world's leading experts in helping you transform your relationship with your body and sexuality after being disembodied from it for so long. But other than trusting yourself and experiencing this exquisite connection to source within you, not as something outside of you, what is the benefit of embodied pleasure? Okay, so let's get practical here. I know I went a little esoteric on you, a little meta. I do that often. But the practical reasons that you want to experience embodied pleasure is because you don't get full body energy orgasms. You don't get the deep cervical orgasms or the breast and heartgasms from thinking about a fantasy or from having some sort of vision in your mind that's going to ignite or elicit that level of pleasure. Now, I want to be clear that I am not knocking fantasy, and I am not knocking the brain's amazing power to use fantasy or visuals to get us into our body, because they do and they can. The problem that I see is that sometimes the fantasy or the visual can keep us from accessing more pleasure from within the body because we are so attached and trained to continue to hold on to the fantasy or to the visual instead of going inside and accessing the pleasure that's already happening inside. So yes, the brain can be used to help get you there initially, but at some point, embodied pleasure becomes necessary in order to have these deeper, cataclysmic, earth-shattering, amazing orgasmic experiences that aren't derived necessarily from friction-based pleasure from the clitoris or from fantasy-induced or visual-induced pleasure that only gives you access to so much pleasure. Because yes, that can work, and it works for many, many people. But when I'm talking to women who want to have these amazing orgasmic experiences and all they are experiencing is this tiny little ho-hum, it's kind of great orgasm, but there's nothing to really write home about. If that's your experience, that's because you're missing out on all of the pleasure that's already available inside of your body. You're not experiencing embodied pleasure. You're only experiencing it within the brain itself, which yes, can get you somewhere, but it's not going to get you where I'm telling you is available to go if you so choose and desire that. So embodied pleasure, the practical here is that embodied pleasure gives you access to more pleasure. So if you want more pleasure, you get to get embodied. And that is exactly what I teach women how to do. I teach them how to get out of their head, get in their body by healing their relationship and transforming their relationship with the body itself and with their sexuality. Because without that, you're not going to have all of these amazing, life-altering, earth-shattering experiences on the regular. You may have had a couple of them, and that was probably because you were able to get in that embodied space. But it's likely that you're not experiencing it on the regular because you don't know how. You haven't figured out the formula. Well, guess what? I figured out the formula for you, so you don't have to do that. And that's what I help women do. Reconnect to their body, their sexuality. So if you're interested in learning more about my methods and exactly what I do to support clients to experience embodied pleasure, I want you to go download my private audio training, 5 days to epic sex and pleasure for high achieving moms. While you don't have to be a mom to download this training or get value from it, just know that I speak to high achieving moms because that is my ideal client. My favorite clients are high-achieving moms who have the type A tendencies, who are so in their head, who have so many roles that they're juggling. This is who I know that I can help the most. So if this is you, or if you're resonating with some of it, then I want you to go download that training. It is my most amazing training, my free training to date. I have never given so much value in any free content ever. So if you want to go download that, you can hit the link in the show notes or go to www.tillystorm.com/5-day training. You do have to put in the www. Or it will not take you there. So just head to the link in the show notes and download that training to get started learning more about all of this right away. See you next week, mamas. Chances are, if you hear my voice right now, you might be a woman who struggles with lack of libido or desire, doesn't find sex that fulfilling or satisfying, or that's so busy and in your head that it's really challenging to drop in and actually enjoy sex when it happens. Yes, this podcast is here to help you with that. In each episode, I will be sharing everything I know to help you experience more pleasure in your sex life. But let's face it, simply obtaining more information isn't going to change anything about your sex life. The thing is, being a high-achieving mom who's already in her head a lot and is strapped for time and energy, more information is not what you need, sweetheart. Alternatively, learning to rewire your body and your brain so you can get out of your head, be in your body, and enjoy yourself is required. If you're really serious and committed to doing the embodiment practices, the somatic and the nervous system reprogramming, so you can experience epic sex in the bedroom and beyond, then I invite you to consider my Sensually Embodied Woman program. This is my signature program to teach and to coach high-achieving moms like you. And it's how over 70 women have experienced a massive increase in their sexual desire and pleasure in the bedroom and beyond in less than 4 months. Through the program, you'll get deep, intimate coaching from me for 16 weeks, where I'll be able to personally guide you through your specific sex life and relationship struggles. And you'll also instantly join a sisterhood of other high-level women going through the same things to support you on the journey. On top of that, in addition to all of the coaching, the community, the accountability, the teachings, and the audio-guided embodiment practices and meditations, when you join the Sensually Embodied Woman program, you'll get lifetime access to our member library with new bonus content that we're continually adding in. And by the way, the program does help you to become a multi-orgasmic mama too. So yes, you can rely on just the information I share with you here. And yes, you may get the pleasure education you never got growing up. You may grow the ovaries enough to break the ice with your partner and have a meaningful conversation about your sex life. Or you could take the shortcut and get the support you're going to need right off the bat. So if you're ready to commit to doing what it takes to have epic sex and pleasure in the next 4 months, then click the link in the show notes and fill out an application for the Sensually Embodied Woman program, and you'll be on your way to joining my magical world of multi-orgasmic motherhood and fast-tracking your journey to a thriving sex life and relationship today. Once again, hit the link in the show notes to apply for the Sensually Embodied Woman, and I'll see you there in the program.